Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Ace Airlines video. As you can see, I have a new set I've kind of been working on, and I'm really going to try and work on upping that video quality and content. I have a couple of really neat things coming. I'm working really hard on them, and I plan to have a release, or at least some sort of teaser, May 2nd or so. So today I'm going to be talking roughly what I've done in the past, because a few months back I released a video on my sim and everything about it. However, I've changed quite a few things actually. I'll kind of run through them briefly and go into a little more detail. So, biggest thing is I've installed puck lights. I also built a brand new panel, installed my, and I kind of fixed up everything with my instrument panel. And I also built myself a brand new center pedestal, as well as throttle, mixture, and flap assembly. So it's much better, much more realistic, and it also allows for some improvements later on down the road. My mixture, for example, is going to be able to do a fine adjustment, as well as have a push button on it, so I can do the full movement with it as well. So it's right now I've built it to it's an exact replica of the Cessna 172P from 1984, and I'm hoping to, in the next few weeks or months, get it just really perfected down to a good solid build. And I'll talk more about that with my teaser. You can think of that as a teaser if you will, but I have something pretty neat coming that hopefully a lot of you guys will find very interesting. Now we're going to move on to the first thing that I've changed, the biggest thing, which is going to be my throttle, mixture, and flap assembly. Alright, so with this throttle, flap, and mixture assembly, it's basically brand new. So I rebuilt my panel, and when I did that, I did not install Velcro for my old throttle. What I used previously was a Cytec throttle quadrant that I had mounted on top of the center pedestal. So my center pedestal was moved out about 5 inches or so that could sit on top. Now I've pushed the center pedestal all the way back so it's flush with the panel, and rebuilt the panel. So my panel is brand new, just a new piece of foam board, same design, just a new piece of foam board, no more wrinkles and stuff like that. So it's much better build quality with the panel. And then when I did my throttle, I just could put the holes in it where they would go. And then in my table, so behind my panel I have this table that I'm using. It's not a commercial table, it sits on top of my PVC pipe structure, and it has two 2x4 supporting pieces in the middle, and that's what holds the TV, yoke assembly, basically the guts of the sim, what makes it what it is. And from there I could attach underneath that my potentiometer. I use the same idea as my yokes, where it's a sliding, you could say it's a sliding potentiometer. It's not, but it's kind of that same idea. And then on top, I'll have my potentiometer, so the potentiometer will follow that tracking movement, and will turn it through that range of motion. And that's how I can get those inputs. And I did that for the throttle and mixture, just one mounted on each side. And how I actually built the throttle and mixture is I pulled the models from Thingiverse. I can link them below. They're fantastic. It's the guy who makes it has actually a couple of really cool projects. And I 3D printed those out. I had to make a few adjustments, but for the most part, they're what he made. And then I printed those out, painted them, and got them all situated for my sim. I used metal straws, same as what he used. He actually did a full build guide, which again I will link below, and it covers how to build it. Phenomenal. I had to sand, and I got the tensions down perfectly. Any tensions that weren't perfect, you just add a small piece of tape, and that gets it just really smooth. And you don't have to use grease or anything. It is really good. Same for the mixture, it has the same build idea. However, with that, I then added a push button, and the inside of it is it's got screw. It's threaded, so I can actually turn the mixture, and that will be able to do fine adjustment basically. Very interesting. That's what I'm going to do later on, is I need to get some ball bearings to install in there. There's a few other things I want to do before I do that, just to make sure it's reliable as is before I add in more. But when I do that, I'm going to have fine adjustment, and the push button will release that fine adjustment so I can do the full range of motion. I also did the flap handle, which again, same design as throttle, where it's a moving rod that is then connected to a potentiometer to do that range of motion. And this is all wired to the Arduino Leonardo, which is the same one I use for the yokes. I'll get into that when I talk about the yokes as well. I had to make some changes to the code, because the code I'm using, I use the joystick library 2.0, and I had to edit the code quite a bit to get it to work. It was very frustrating, but it works now, so I don't have to think about it. And if any of you are interested in that code, leave a comment below. I'll make sure I get back in more detail, explain what the code's doing. I'll leave the code. I'm trying to make this available. I built this entire sim for relatively cheap. All it requires is just kind of knowing what you have and being able to figure out what you don't have, and if you can make it work with what you have, or if you can do something DIY to get it. I mean, this entire thing is DIY, and it's phenomenal. I mean, even when I look on the internet today, yes, they might be a little bit better build quality, but in terms of price, this thing is unmatched. I mean, this is probably just to build a PVC pipe panel and all that sorts. I probably only spent around $100, $200. Electronics and wiring and all the other stuff, I think the total cost of Sim's probably around $500 or so, but it's very cheap compared to competitors. There's one competitor who offers a singular panel, no enclosure or anything, and it's like $10,000. So this is a much better option, and it's DIY. I mean, you built it yourself, so you get a bit of that as well. So with the next part, the yokes, those are also fully DIY. What I used was cabin glides for my pitch, and I basically put a board across them. So I created this moving platform that then I can just attach these two yokes to. So the pitch portion was very easy. So when I get into the roll piece, that it gets very difficult. So to do the roll with the yokes, my idea is still the same as when I originally built it, where I'm going to have a gear on either end and it's basically a chain. That sounds very easy, and it was not. Part of it was I executed it very badly. My original design, I used a cardboard tube because it was the only thing I could find that had the right inner diameter for what I needed. Outer diameter. Because what I did was when I ordered the ball bearings, I had looked at outer diameter, not inner diameter. So I planned to have my PVC pipe go in it. That didn't work, so I had to build an assembly that could combine a 3/4 inch PVC pipe to a 1/2 inch. What I used was a cardboard tube. That's a bad idea. Don't do that. So I was flying one day and the entire yoke just collapsed. So back to the drawing board. So what I instead did is 1/2 inch steel. Actually, it's 1/2 inch galvanized tubing for plumbing. Phenomenal. It actually improved it in the feel because it had a little bit more mass and it just felt really good. Then I could attach my gear to the end, and then I used some Connects chain that I had laying around, and then connected that to some, again, I used to use string, but that had too much give to it, so I went to, again, it was a galvanized wire, and that I just have clamped in, and I made it so I can unscrew a piece in it and adjust it to tension. So they're a little loose, and that's because I want to reduce the strain on those plastic pieces and my linkage there, because it's the weakest joint. It's also why my pressure for roll is very minimal. I made it almost nothing, just enough to keep it upright, because I want to reduce as much stress as possible on those pieces. However, with the pitch, I gave it as much pressure as possible, because that, again, is a very solid build, and that's one of the more important parts of flying, is be able to feel, especially when you're in the flare. Not force feedback, but I gave it so that when I'm flying, it would have the same forces in the air. I could have made it so it had the same forces on the ground, but again, I built this to fly, not taxi. So I focused on getting the pressures that would be while flying. So getting all that to work was pretty chaotic, but it's a really good build now. And the potentiometers, how I have it linked up, gives me a very good input. And when I calibrate it with Windows, I can get all the range of motion. And to a degree, it's even more accurate than the Logitech or the Cytec yoke, now Logitech ProFlight yoke. And it's a really good build. The next thing I added was a relatively small thing. but I wanted to do something for when I'm doing in the sim videos, because I hang my camera in the back, and I needed a way so I could be lit up a little bit better. So I installed some puck lights in the top of the sim, and I added one for co-pilot, one for pilot. Gives it a really cool feel in the cabin, because I can turn those on, and I can almost mimic the lighting that would happen when I'm doing an early morning flight with the shadows from the light in the room as well as in the sim. It's a really cool effect that I did not plan for, and I'm very happy that worked out. But it allows each person to have an individual control with that, and they're battery powered, so I can just turn it and clip it out and replace batteries if I need to. They have a great battery life though. They're working very well. And the last thing I did with the sim is kind of more just cosmetics. Is I wanted it to have a really good, you could almost say it's a curb appeal. I just wanted it to have some good aesthetics, because it has that DIY feel, but I also wanted it to look good. So I kind of went through the sim and patched up here and there. I went through screwed in parts so nothing was loose, and it had a much sturdier feel. I also went through and screwed in the yoke pieces so I didn't need taping anywhere, and just tried to improve it so it was as simple and as sturdy and kind of had as good of a feel as possible, and that helped quite a bit. In the future, I still have to add some decals, and I'm still doing cabin trim. I have a couple of side pockets I'm going to add in there. I'm going to do some water bottle holders and just some smaller cosmetic extras within the cabin. That hopefully, when done, is just going to add a little bit extra to an already fantastic flight simulator. Overall, most of the stuff from the previous sim tour, in terms of how I'm running my instruments, how my switches are interfaced, that's all the same. The biggest thing I changed was just getting my new throttle installed, puck lighting, and just kind of really improving the sim in general. I now consider this a Gen 3 build. My Gen 1, I used to build, it was a cardboard box that I was running, and I made it an Embraer 175, a big built-in overhead panel. It was very basic. I just moved into a house, so I had those resources available, which again is just what do you have to make what you want. Just trying to be as resourceful as possible. And then I began building this, and that was Gen 2, which I did before. Gen 2 is technically without my instruments, but then I added in my instruments, my new throttle, and just kind of improved the sim to a full Cessna 172P, which is what it is now. And that was kind of my beginning, or I guess my end goal, when I started back in June of last year. It's been a long time building, but now it's done, and hopefully I can really get started on doing some more flying videos, as well as, can't tell you too much about it, but I have a neat thing coming, which again, May 2nd, that's when I'm planning on making some announcement of some sort. And hopefully it gets a lot of great feedback, and I can continue with it. So hope you guys enjoy. If you have any other questions whatsoever, leave them in the comment, and I'll do my best to answer them, or again, I'll make a separate video on it if it is something that would need that. I'm planning on doing another video later on where I'm going to talk about my computer specs, and I have a few other things that I'm going to try and do later on as well. And again, I'm really trying to work on upping the quality and overall production of my videos, so if you have any pointers or things that I did wrong in this video, please let me know, because I really want to improve. I'm trying to get a good lighting set up here where I can have a nice background of the sim, still have good lighting and good video. I'm working on getting some better audio equipment set up, and even when I do my flying videos, I'm working on getting some better lighting there and overall quality. So if you have any helpful hints, tips, whatever, just leave them in a comment. I'll do my best to answer them. I need as much feedback as possible. I'm obviously just starting out, and I hope to take it a very far distance. So if you guys enjoy this sort of content, or again, feedback, subscribe below, drop a like. Actually, you don't even have to drop a like. Subscribing, that gives me all the information I need, because that shows me that my content people are interested in and want to learn more about. So I'm not gonna say this straight up, but I'm gonna try and start getting videos done on a regular basis, maybe like once a week. And over the next few weeks, I'm not gonna be able to do many videos other than May 2nd. But hopefully, as summer rolls around, hopefully I'll be able to get out quite a few more videos. So, hope you guys enjoy, and I'll catch you guys next time.